Namaste, welcome back to AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate Exam Question Analysis. So, till now, I think we have finished about 35 questions, if I'm not wrong. So, let's do 15 more in this video, shall we? Question number 36. A recent analysis of a company's IT expenses highlights the need to reduce backup costs. Okay, so they want to reduce backup costs. The company's chief information officer wants to simplify the on-premises backup infrastructure and reduce cost by eliminating the use of physical backup tapes. The company must preserve the existing investment in the on-premises backup applications and workflows. Okay, what should a solutions architect recommend? Okay, so if you see, they want to still use the on-premises backup applications to backup, but where are they backing up the data? They are backing up onto physical backup tapes. They want to avoid doing that. Instead, they want to back it up to the cloud. So they want to use on-premise application and to back up to the cloud. So do you see what they are asking for? They are asking for a way from on-premise you can back it up onto the cloud. So when you think about that, few things should come into mind, like tools that will let you access the storage on cloud from on-premise, which is storage gateway. So we can go ahead and cross this out, because storage gateway is the only thing that will let you access AWS cloud storage from on-premise. Okay, that being said, we have two types, and we already discussed about this. Tapes only support ISCSA virtual tape interface. They don't support NFS, so you can cross that out. So we don't even have to look at anything. Got it? So this is how you should eliminate others and answer this. Whenever you see anything accessing a storage on the cloud from on-premise, it is AWS storage gateway. And then again, AWS storage gateway has different features. If you look at it, not features, but what you call them, gateways. You have file, tape, volume, hardware, but they are not asking that. In case if they ask, it is obviously tape, because each one of these supports a different interface. File gateway supports, if I am not wrong, NFS and SMB. Tape gateway we already seen. Volume gateway supports ICSC, what is it? This one, but not the VTL. VTL is for the tape, ISCSI is for the volume. Remember that. Question number 37. A company wants to direct its users to a backup static error page. Okay, they want users to a backup static error page. So the error page is already created somewhere. If the company's primary website is unavailable, the primary website's DNS records are hosted in Amazon Route 53. Okay, so they are using AWS Route DNS. The domain is pointing to a LLB. Okay, the company needs a solution that minimizes changes and infrastructure overhead. Which solution will meet the requirements? All right, so if you look at a high level, you have, users will enter, Route 53 will be there. Then based on the ALB, so then the Route 53 is there. Then you have ALB, and then let's say you have your EC2. Okay, so what they are saying is, when you have a problem with the website, which means some problem with the EC2, then you should be able to direct it to backup static error page. So how do you do that? You can do that at Route 53 itself. Basically all have Route 53, so you can use Route 53. On Route 53 you have different options. That's why you have multi-answer, you have active, passive, and but think about it, right? When you have a failure and you already have an error page, this backup static error page is not a service that is active, so you don't need active configuration for it. Okay, because they clearly said you are not running active in the sense you already have another EC2 machine running somewhere up. So whenever this one, if they both will be running at the same time, and if one fails, it will fail over to the other one. Okay, so that's the active, we don't need that. And then they're talking about, if you look at this, a latency routing policy, and we don't need a latency routing policy. So let me show you what policies there are so that we can discuss more on that. Okay, so if we go here, so we have latency based routing, which is route end users to the AWS region that provides the lowest possible latency, which is not the case. We are looking for failover, not routing. So let's cross that out as well. Okay, then they are talking about multi-answer routing policy. Even that we are not looking for. Basically what it does is you have 10 servers, and then you will have each server name put in there. So it randomly picks one server among those 10 servers randomly, totally randomly, which is something that we are not looking for, because we want it to fail over, not randomly pick this error page even if the other website is running. So that will lead us to this active passive. Okay, so let's read this through. So they are saying we will have an active passive failover configuration. Let me see if I can find more details if they show us what type of failovers. So let's see. I don't think they are showing us, but you can see they have their DNS failover. Active passive in the sense that your server website, whatever you are running EC2, that will be active. Passive means whatever backup or error page you want to, it is not the same as whatever is active. It's not an EC2. It's passive, which in the sense it's not running, but it can in the case of failover. But for us, we have a backup error page. It's just an error page. It's not a server. Okay, so this will work fine for us. Then we will direct traffic to the error page that is hosted in an S3 bucket when 5.3 health checks determine that the ALB endpoint is unhealthy. That's what we want to do. Okay, so that is our answer. Okay, remember the difference between active and active passive. Question number 38. A retail company uses a regional Amazon API gateway API for its public REST APIs. The API gateway endpoint is a custom domain name that points to an Amazon Route 53 alias records. Okay. Okay, so that is a custom domain name, whatever that is pointing to, the API gateway endpoint, and name that points to an alias record. So basically, let's talk about alias records, right? So instead of domain names or IP address and etc. in Route 53, you have the alias record. Alias in the sense, if you are pointing it to some AWS resource or AWS service, you create an alias record. That is what it is talking about. So there is a custom domain name that points to Route 53 alias record, which means this custom domain name is pointing to some kind of AWS service. A solutions architect needs to create a solution that has minimal effects on customers and minimal data loss to release the new version of APIs. Okay, so this you need to remember whenever they are asking this. I can go through the other options, but whenever they are talking about you have a API already built in, like let's say version 1, and you have some modifications, you did improvements, enhanced, fixed bugs, etc., and you want to release version 2. But when you are doing that, if you want to have minimal effects on customers and minimal data loss, then there is a specific approach that companies take, which is called canary release deployment. I can show you some examples, not examples, but the definitions of canary release deployment, but you can blindly go with this. You don't have to go through any of this. I mean, we can go through each point, but what I'm trying to say is this canary release deployment is the only one that will make sure that you won't push everything at a time. Instead, you will push small things, and then you will check if the API is breaking or not. Even if it breaks, you will only have minimal effects because you are pushing little things. Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about. And if you want to learn about alias and non-alias, you can check this out, choosing between alias and non-alias records. And then we have this link if you want to see the other options, right? Okay, for example, as I already mentioned, canary release deployment is the answer for this. Let's look at others. They're asking you to create a new API gateway endpoint with a new version of API in OpenAPI YAML file format. Use the import to update operation in merge mode into the API in API gateway. Deploy the new version of the API to the production stage. Okay. So basically what they are saying is you leave alone whatever the old API you have, completely create a new gateway endpoint with a new version, and then they are saying import to update operation in merge mode into the API in API gateway, and then they deploy the new version. So in order to understand that import to update, we need to go check import to update link, obviously. Okay, so you can import API definitions only to update an existing API. You can import API definitions only to update an existing API without changing its endpoint configuration. Okay, but if you look at here, they are talking about without changing endpoint configuration. Okay, but if you are not going to change the endpoint configuration, okay, then this is not going to work for us. Okay, because we are creating a new API gateway endpoint, but the import to update will only work if you are not going to update the endpoint. So this won't work. Okay, so the import to update will only work if you are using the existing gateway endpoint, not the new API gateway endpoint. Then this is talking the same new API gateway endpoint and import to update. The only difference is here YAML file and here JSON file. So we can cross this out. And then we have a create a new API gateway endpoint with new versions of API definitions. Okay, fine with it. Then create a custom domain name for the new API gateway API. So instead of whatever we have, they want to do something else altogether. Point the route 53 alias record to the new gateway API custom domain. Okay, so this is going to impact the customers. The reason being, this is completely new, even the domain name, everything. So now you have to go and tell everybody who is using this API to change to change the endpoint, right? So that is going to have an impact on the customer. So obviously this is not recommended. So just go with the canary release deployment. If you don't know what canary release is, read through it. There are some examples how they show. It's a technique to reduce the risk of introducing a new software in production by slowly rolling out the change to a small subset of users before rolling it out to the entire infrastructure and make it available to everybody. All right. So read through that. Question number 39. A company runs Amazon EC2 instances in multiple AWS accounts that are individually led, not bled. The company recently purchased a savings plan. Because of changes in the company's business requirements, the company has decommissioned a large number of EC2 instances. The company wants to use its savings plan discounts on its other accounts. Which combination of steps will... Okay, so if you didn't understand the question, let me reiterate it for you. So what they're trying to say is they have multiple AWS accounts in an organization, and that company purchased a savings plan. Okay, but due to, let's say, some problems in the company no longer doing some projects they are doing, and they had to decommission so many EC2 instances. Okay, so since that company already bought savings plan and now you are decommissioning so many EC2 instances, what it is saying is I want to use this savings plan discounts, because you will get discounts with savings plans in other AWS accounts. Okay, so right now I think they were using in only one account. Now they want to use it in other accounts as well, because if you know anything about savings plan, it is you can use that across the entire organization in all the accounts. It will take into consideration all the accounts combined instances, and then it will apply discounts based on that. Okay, so what are they saying? So how should the company proceed with this? Okay, let's look at different options. Okay, shall we? Let's look at things that are not answers, then we'll go back to what are the answers. So let's look at B. From the AWS account management console of the account that purchased the existing savings plan, turn on discount sharing. Okay, so even though a sub account, uh, so they are saying, let's say we have 5 accounts. The first account purchased the savings plan. They're saying turn on the discount sharing from the billing sections. The thing is, you cannot do that from that particular account. Anything you do at a if it has to be applied to all accounts, then it has to be the management account, which is the main organization account, not the sub account. So this is not possible. So let's cross this out. Okay, then let's look at option C. From the AWS organizations, okay, so this is on the right track. Use AWS Resource Access Manager to share the savings plan. You don't do that. Resource Access Manager, you don't do to share the savings plan. If you are interested, let me see if I can open up Resource Manager. AWS Resource Manager. Resource Access Manager. Okay. So this will simplify securely share your AWS resources across multiple accounts. It is talking about sharing AWS resources across multiple accounts. It is not talking about enabling the resource with your organization and with IAM roles and users for supported. Okay, this has nothing to do with share the savings plan with other accounts. And then let's look at option D. Create an organization in AWS organizations in new. Oh my God. Okay, so they want to completely create an organization in this. Invite the other AWS accounts to join the organization from the management. No, we don't want to do that. It's unnecessary. Let's cross it out. So the answers are A and E. So you will create an organization in AWS organizations in the existing AWS account. Okay, so the difference between this is that. This is a completely new. This is in the existing AWS account with the existing EC2 instances and savings plan, because we already have the savings plan. Invite the other AWS accounts to join the organization from the management account. Okay, so that's what you will do. So this is one answer. Once you have that, you will go to the AWS account management console of the management account, then turn on the discount sharing. I already told you the turning on the discount sharing is only possible from the management. Question number 40. A media company uses an Amazon CloudFront distribution to deliver content over the internet. The company wants only premium customers to have access to the media streams and file content. The company stores all content in an S3 bucket. The company also delivers content on demand to customers for a specific purpose, such as movie rentals or music downloads. Let's look at the options now. First one is generate and provide S3 signed cookies to premium customers. So let's look about what these signed cookies are. Okay, so many companies that distribute content over the internet want to restrict access to documents, business data, media streams, or content that is intended for selected users, which is what our question is asking. For example, users who have paid a fee. To securely serve this private content by using CloudFront, you can do the following. First of all, require that your users access your private content by using special CloudFront signed URLs or signed cookies. Okay, which is what the exact answer we are looking for. Require that your users access your content by using CloudFront URLs, not URLs that access content directly on the origin server, which means if they are on S3, don't use S3 URLs, instead use CloudFront URLs. For example, Amazon S3 or server, don't use them. Requiring CloudFront URLs isn't necessary, but we recommend it to prevent users from bypassing the restrictions that you specify in signed URLs or signed cookies. Alright, so basically we already have the answer there, and looks like this is not an answer because it is talking about S3 signed. We don't want S3 signed cookies, instead we want CloudFront. If you look at it here, I will show you again. It's not talking about S3 cookies. Instead, it is talking about CloudFront signed URLs or CloudFront signed cookies. Instead, here it is talking about S3. So go ahead, cancel it. And the answer is this one. It already provided CloudFront signed URL. So let's underline that. And origin access control. Again, this is on S3. Generate and active wait field level encryption. This is encryption again. This is on CloudFront, but we don't need it because we already saw the article that clearly says either use cookies or URL for that. Question number 41. A company wants to build a web application on AWS. Client access requests to the website are not predictable and can be idle for a long time. Only customers who have paid a subscription fee can have the ability to sign in and use the web application. Which combination of steps will meet these requirements most cost effectively? This you need to select three options. Who have paid subscription fee can have the ability. Okay, so this is something like Netflix and etc. And the website are not predictable and can be idle for a long time. Okay, so this is our question. Now let's look at options. Let's eliminate the options because selecting the options is 3, eliminating is only through 2. So let's look at them. Okay, so first of all, let's look at what this is saying. Create an Amazon Elastic Container Service behind an application load balancer to retrieve user information from Amazon RDS. Create an API gateway endpoint to accept RESTful APIs. Send the API calls to the Lambda function. So whenever you have this many options and all, basically they will be, if they are asking you to select 3, they are divided 2, like A and B, C and D, E and F. So between these two you have to select one. Okay, so here let's look at this one as well. Create Lambda function to retrieve user information from DynamoDB. Create an Amazon API gateway endpoint to accept RESTful APIs. Send the API calls to. So first one looks more serverless to me than B option because you are using Elastic Container Service here, which means you still have to provision the EC2s and run on that because it is not talking about forget anywhere here. And then it is talking about having RDS. Okay, so whenever they are saying not predictable, always go for serverless services when they use the word not predictable. Okay, so clearly here you have fully managed, whereas if you see here it is serverless. Okay, so we have everything serverless, so I would go with option A compared with option B, and this is also most cost effective because it's serverless compared with B. Then we have C and D. Create Amazon Cognito user pool to authenticate users. So in order to answer this question, you should know the Cognito user pool versus identity pools. This is basically talking about have the ability to sign in and use the web application. I will go with user pool because I know the answer, but I will open the link for you to distinguish between identity pool and user pool. Okay, so let us go there and let's see. This is hosting a private Cognito user pool. Okay, user pool is a user directory for web and mobile app authentication and authorization. From the perspective of your app, Cognito user pool is an OpenID Connect identity provider. A user pool adds layers of additional features for security, etc. So what are we looking at? We are looking between user pool and an identity pool. So you have seen this user pool, right? Basically this is what we are looking for. Whereas identity pool, if I can go and see, is a directory of federated identities that you can exchange for AWS credentials. Identity pools generate temporary AWS credentials for the users of your app, whether they have signed in or you haven't identified them yet. With AWS IAM roles and policies, you can choose the level of permission that you want to grant to your users. Users can start out as guests and retrieve assets that you keep in AWS. They can sign in with a third-party identity provider to unlock access to assets that you make available to registered members. See this? The identity providers doesn't let you have that. It still says you can sign in with third-party identity provider to unlock access to assets, etc. for registered. So this doesn't do that. This is, I think, identity pools lets you access some of the apps using these so-called federated identities. But we have seen what user pools that it will let you have username, password to log in into that and etc. So that's why we'll pick user pool. Then we have E and F. Now we need to pick which option for the hosting the website. This is talking about Amplify. We know Amplify is app, like if you want to build a web app, iOS, Android app, then you will use that. Nowhere it is talking about a mobile application. And again, if you are talking about it actually it is not saying anything about mobile apps. So F option looks good because, as we know, S3 works well with static web hosting, and then CloudFront for dynamic content to serve the front-end web content. So this is a better option. Anytime S3 and CloudFront beats everything else, even though it has CloudFront here. Amplify doesn't do that. Amplify, again, as I mentioned, I can show you again. If you want to host a static website on S3, you have a link here. AWS Amplify. Okay. This is basically solution that lets front-end web and mobile developers easily build, ship and host full stack applications on AWS with the flexibility to leverage the breadth of AI services, blah blah blah, etc. Okay, so that being said, let's go to question number 42. A company has an on-premises server that uses Oracle database to process and store customer information. The company wants to use an AWS database service to achieve higher availability and to improve application performance. The company also wants to offload reporting from its primary database system. Which AWS solution? Okay. They want to use it to higher availability, to achieve higher availability. Okay, so that is very important. They want to offload reporting from its primary database, which means they want to have a read replicas or read. They want to do this operationally efficient way to do that. Okay, so whenever you see these kind of things, when they say we want a separate database for the reporting, we don't want to overrun the main one. Just look for any AZ deployments, okay? Because AZ deployments will come with the primary, and then you will have another secondary one that is also running. So we can ignore the DMS. This is a data migration service. We are not talking about migrating the data here at all. Okay, they are saying use that to create RDS DB instance in multiple AWS regions. Point the reporting functions toward. No, we don't want to do that because here there is no mentioning of the availability, high availability being highly available. And this is talking about single AZ, which doesn't provide us the higher availability. So let's cross that out. And then these two are basically the same things, except here they are using multi-AZ cluster, multi-AZ instance. So I would go with the multi-AZ cluster for a reason. That reason being both are highly available, but they want to offload reporting from primary database. So for that reason, I want to go with the cluster, because cluster will come with its own two standby read replicas. Okay, let me show you that. Okay, Amazon RDS multi-AZ cluster. Let's see if a picture, right? So you see this, right? You will have your writer DB, and then you will have your reader DBs. Two reader DBs you will get with the clusters. With the cluster, I replicates data from writer to both of the reader DBs. So you can use those readers for the offloading of the data reporting. And if you look at instance deployments, highly available support to be using multiple deployments single. So it will come with a single standby instance. So something like this. And the bummer about it is it doesn't have the read access. It is just a standby replica in case of disaster recovery, but this doesn't have the read access. So reporting has to rely on that. Question specifically mentioned they want to offload it from the primary DB. So to readable standby. So obviously we will go with the multi-AZ cluster, not this one. So cross this out. Question number 43. A company wants to use the AWS cloud to improve its on-premises disaster recovery configuration. The company's core production business application uses Microsoft SQL Server Standard, which runs on a virtual machine. The application has a recovery point objective of 30 seconds, RPO of 30 seconds, RTO of 60 minutes. The DR solution need to minimize costs whenever possible. Basically, they are looking for DR, but what they are saying is we want a recovery point objective of 30 seconds, the recovery time objective of 60 minutes. So, first of all, we need to learn about what recovery time objective and recovery point objective are. So, let me open a link for you. Where is this? Okay, not to go here, I need to go there. AWS, RTO and RPO. Okay, here. Okay, so if you look at here, the data loss is measured from most recent backup to the point of disaster. So RPY is something, how much data can you afford to recreate or loss? Okay, so let's say you had the RPO of here, then you have a disaster here. Okay, so the data loss between the RPO and the disaster. Then how quickly must you recover? What is the cost of downtime? So in this question, they are saying like, okay, so we are okay with the cost of downtime, which is the RTO to be 60 minutes. So they are fine with being the system offline for 60 minutes. But the data loss, they can only afford a 30 seconds of data loss. Okay, so they cannot afford more. So you can go ahead and read through this. It is a very interesting thing. Learn about. Go ahead and read through it. Okay, so that being said, let's come back to the answers. Now we need to just look at which option will provide us with the RTO of 60 minutes of 30 seconds, because there are so many ways you can do the disaster recovery. Actually, let me show you that so that you will have the answer. AWS disaster recovery. There is a nice article I read somewhere. So there are totally 4 methods. Okay, let me show you the picture here. Okay, so totally there are like 4 methods how you can use the disaster strategies. You can call 4 DR strategies. From left being the cheapest and more data loss and more time to be up, then on the far right you have the costliest but zero downtime. So you can just take a look at this picture and then we can actually go through our answers. And our question says they are fine with RTO of 60 minutes, which if we look at here, RTO is in minutes. This is real time. We don't want real time. The company is fine with 60 minutes and 30 seconds. So maybe this one, not this one, because this one is in tens of minutes. Okay, so let's not go with this. Let's go with this, right? Because this impossible. This is in hours. This is real time. We are fine with. We don't want either of this. But between these two, I would pick warm standby because we have 60 minutes. RTO, even this does the 60 minutes, but the RPO is in 30 seconds, which this won't do because it says tens of minutes. Tens of minutes means either it is 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but we are only fine with 30 seconds of it. So we would go with this one. Okay, you can read through this. It is a good information, a good article for you to read, watch what each one does. So go through this. But coming back to our question, it's talking about multi-site active, which is the far right one, which we don't want to do. And this is talking about pilot, which we don't want, as I mentioned, which is the second strategy. This is talking about the first one, which we don't want to do. And we'll go with the third option, which is the warm standby. So basically they're just asking question directly from that picture. Okay, remember those four, which is backup, pilot, warm standby, active. Okay. Question number 44. A global video streaming company uses Amazon CloudFront as a content distribution network, or the CDN. The company wants to roll out content in a phased manner across multiple sites or multiple countries. The company needs to ensure that viewers who are outside the countries to which the company rolls out content are not able to view the content. This is a typical example of Netflix, right? Some movies that are available in US are not available in India, and some movies that are available in India are not available in US. That's why so many people use VPNs and whatnot. So basically they are saying that is the requirement, which solution will meet these requirements. And I think we kind of seen this requirement. For example, it's talking about signed URLs and cookies and etc. But if you remember, we were restricting it. We are using signed URL cookies based on the user for the content, not the country and whatnot. For that, there is another option, which is the first option: add geographic restrictions to the content in CloudFront by using an allow list. Because just by a user who is logging in, you cannot decide, whether he has access to a particular content, because we won't know which country he is from. I mean, if he creates the account saying some other country, we won't believe it blindly, right? So instead, you would use the geographic restrictions of the content in CloudFront by using an allow list. Okay, so there will be an in the CloudFront, you can allow list. In the allow list, you can mention the list of countries and etc. to allow for that content or not. So that is what we will use. We won't use this one, this option. And then encrypt the data for the content that the company distributes. This definitely doesn't work because it has nothing to do with restricting to a specific content, etc. You create a new URL for restricted content. No, we cannot, because we are restricting so much content, not just one piece of video or something like that. Set up restricted access policy, so this won't work. I mean, they have this option specifically for that. If I open this up, you can read through it, but basically that is what it does. Okay, which is A. Question number 45. A company runs a 3-tier web application in the AWS cloud that operates across 3 availability zones. The application architecture has an application load balancer, an EC2 web server that hosts user session states. So currently they have an EC2 to have the user session states, and MySQL database that runs on EC2 instances. MySQL and EC2. The company expects sudden increases in application traffic. The company wants to be able to scale to meet future application capacity demands and ensure high availability across all 3 availability zones. Okay, so they have multiple things going on here. So let's look at each of these options, and all of them has MySQL database. It is in MySQL database. So they want to move it to RDS MySQL, RDS for MySQL, DynamoDB, and RDS MySQL. Okay, so they want to do all this. And let's look at this. So first of all, they have a database, and then they have another way they are using EC2 for session states, and then it comes to the high availability. Okay, so first of all, we can eliminate using the DynamoDB in migrating MySQL to DynamoDB, because MySQL is a relational database and DynamoDB is a NoSQL database. So let's eliminate that option out of the picture, right? And then if you look at the other options, pretty much this one uses multi-AZ, but this is saying single availability zone, which won't work for us because we want the database to be highly available across the top. Then we have these two. They are almost similar. The only difference is here they are using Redis to use the store data and the cache. Here they are using Memcached to store data and etc. Okay. But what I would go with is, I would go with option 1 instead of this. I will explain you why I want to go with it. You can If you think you will go with option B, let me know in the comments your reasons for going that. So memcached actually is best suited for caching data, but here we are talking about session data. We are not talking about caching data. Instead, we are talking about storing session data. While Redis is better for storing data that needs to be persisted, stored. Okay. And if you need to store data that needs to be accessed frequently, such as user profile, session data, application settings, then Redis is the best option. Okay, you don't have to listen to me. I can just show you AWS LST cache Redis. I think I butchered it. Okay, so if we look at these features, I hope it shows features somewhere. No, it is not. Somewhere it will show you what I am talking about. Okay, you can see here, right? Session store, gaming and cache. It does all of those both. If you look at it, actually, this does the session store and etc. But you can see it here: caching, chatting, messaging, geospatial, leaderboards, machine learning, and media streaming, queues, real-time analytics, and session store. So let's go with this one option and instead of that option. And another reason I want to do is it is highly available and scalable. If you look at the other one, they both will look similar even in use cases, right? Even it says it has session store and caching, but the reason is this: I don't think this is highly available. It has a primary and standby databases and whatnot, but it is not that highly available as compared with Redis. So I would go with the other one. Again, as I said, this is a biased question. You can pick based on your answers, but let me know. As I mentioned, right, memcached is best suited for caching data, while Redis is for storing that needs to be persisted and whatnot. Question number 46. A company wants to provide data scientists with near real-time read-only access to the company's production RDS for PostgreSQL database. The database is currently configured as a single AZ database. The database scientists use complex queries that will not affect the production database. Okay, so clearly they are talking about something other than the primary instance they want to have, where they can query complex queries on it. The company needs a solution that is, wow, we are looking a lot of solutions today, high availability and most cost effective. Okay, whenever you see this, you can eliminate the options that doesn't have the multi-AZ. You can eliminate them blindly. And then they are talking, okay, change from single AZ to multi-AZ. All these have the same, but here it's saying with a deployment, blah blah. But I won't go into this because we already covered this. And as I said, whenever you have a requirement of high availability plus have reader read standbys or read replicas to run your reporting or complex queries, then it is always AZ cluster. We just went through it, right? Do you want me to show it again? I guess not, right? Instance won't come with a reader node. It comes with a standby node, where no read access will be there, and primary. And cluster will come with 2 read standby nodes, which is what they were looking for. Okay, easy. 47. A company is building an Amazon EKS cluster for its workloads. All secrets that are stored in Amazon EKS must be encrypted in Kubernetes etcd key value store. Which solution will meet this requirement? Okay, just so you know, EKS does support using AWS KMS keys to provide envelope encryption of Kubernetes secrets in EKS. That you need to learn. That is the only way you will know. Envelope encryption, it will adds an addition customer managed layer of encryption for application secrets or user data that is stored within a Kubernetes cluster. So that is what it is. We cannot go with this. It doesn't enable EKS KMS secret encryption on the EKS cluster, so we can cross this out. Okay, we can create a new AWS key management service key, which is AWS, which is similar to this. Then we will enable Amazon EKS KMS secrets encryption on the cluster, which is available. This is something that you have to learn, otherwise you won't know, because it is very hard to eliminate. Creating the cluster with default options, and then it is talking about use the Amazon EBS container storage driver as an add-on. I think this is irrelevant. Create a new key with alias AWS EBS alias, enable Amazon EBS, again unrelated, cross that out, but this is the answer. And if you want me to go through it, I have a link for this where you can go here. KMS envelope encryption for EKS clusters. Question number 48. A company wants to build a logging solution for its multiple AWS accounts. The company currently stores the logs from all accounts in a centralized account. The company has created an Amazon S3 bucket in the centralized account to store the VPC flow logs and CloudTrail logs. All logs must be highly available for 30 days for frequent analysis, which is standard for 30 days, retained for an additional 60 days for backup purposes, and deleted 90 days after creation. So they are talking about AWS services. So we already know the first one should be standard. So let's eliminate this. Oh, sorry, let's not, because it is saying standard as well. So let's look at each one of them, shall we? So immediate availability 30, and then 60 days for backup purposes, and delete after 90 days. So this is just for backup. They are not talking about it has to be instantly retrieved, and it's most cost effective. Whenever you see most cost effective, what would be the answer? Always go for Glacier, unless they mention they need to access something. But 30 days it is standard. After that it is Glacier, and 90 days we will delete them. Okay, so let's look at the options now. Transition objects to standard class 30 days after creation. Wow, then where are you going to? Okay, that doesn't make any sense. I want them to be in standard for the first 30 days, but they are saying after creation, class 30 days after creation. So after 30 days they are asking about moving to standard, which we don't need. After 30 days I want to move it to Glacier so that I can back it up. So cancel that. Transition objects to S3 standard infrequent after creation. No, I don't want to, because after 30 days we are not accessing it at all. So why do I need infrequent? Waste of money. Okay, let's look at option D. Transition objects to S3 1 zone. I mean, again, we don't need infrequent, so let's eliminate this. So this is the answer. And I think we know from the beginning, like after 30 days we want to move it to Glacier, and write an expiration action that directs to delete after 90 days. Okay, that should do it. Okay, so we just eliminated the other three. We don't even have to pick up this directly. Question number 49. A company stores data in S3. According to regulations, the data must not contain personally identifiable. Okay, that is fine with me. The company recently discovered that have some options. So remember, whenever I told you, whenever you see PII, default answer is Macy. But unluckily for us, there are two options for Macy, but that's fine. We can at least eliminate the other two. So let's cross it out, and let's cross this out. And then let's read the remaining question. The company recently discovered that S3 buckets have some objects that contain PII. The company needs to automatically detect PII in S3 buckets and notify the company's security team. Okay, so that second option is about notifying. We already know we will use Macy for the first part, so both are different, same. So here the difference is, here you need to create event bridge rule to filter the sensitive data event type from Macy findings. Here, rule to filter the sensitive data S3 object personal event type from Macy findings. And to send an Amazon SQS. Okay, so technically you don't use SQS to send notifications, so that is a no for us. You use SNS to send a notification, so that is a yes for us. Okay, so see how we eliminated it. You can use multiple things to eliminate. First we used Macy to eliminate, second we used the notification to eliminate. 50th question, which is last question in this video, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe to this channel, which will help me a lot. And once I hit the subscription goal of 25, I'm planning to release a quiz for 65 questions, and I will only do it if I hit the subscription of 25, because if there are not many people interested in this channel, I don't think me spending most time doing this won't make any sense. So if you want those quizzes after we hit 65 questions, do subscribe and like and comment the videos. All right, thank you. And before ending this video, let's do the 50th question. A company has a workload in an AWS region. Customers connect to and access the workload by using an Amazon API gateway REST API. The company uses Amazon Route 53 as its DNS provider. The company wants to provide individual and secure URLs for all customers. Okay, they want individual and secure URLs for all their customers. Now again, 3 options, remember? Okay, so 3, whenever you see 3, it's like 2 between 2. Okay, now we need to identify which 2. Now let's look at the options, shall we? So the first option, which is A, involves registering the required domain in a register and creating a wildcard domain name in the Route 53 hosted zone. So this will allow you to map individual and secure URLs for all customers your API gateway endpoints. Okay, so that's why we will select this option. There is no other option which does that. And then you have step D here. This is to request a wildcard certificate from the ACM, which is certificate manager, that matches the custom domain name you created in the step A. So this wildcard certificate will cover all subdomains, and it will also ensure secure HTTPS communication. Okay, so that's why we'll select this. Remember, this has to be the difference between B, not B. Yeah, the difference between B and this is, here it is in a different region, whereas this is in the same region. So it has to be in the same region. So that's why we are picking this option. Then we have F, which what does it do? It will create a custom domain name in API gateway for your REST API. So this will allow you to access the custom domain name with your API gateway endpoints, and will import the certificate from ACM for secure communication. Okay, so we'll go ahead and pick this. So it is very hard for us to eliminate the other options. That's why we went with whatever makes sense to us. So I think the A and create multiple API gateways endpoints for each customer in API gateway, that doesn't make any sense. And then request wildcard, that this is a different region, it has to be same region, so eliminate that. Created hosted zones for each customer as required in, no, this won't do as well. Okay, so we eliminated B, D, we picked D because of the same region. B is gone for that. And here it is talking about create multiple API endpoints for each customer in API gateway, which is not possible at all, because if there are 100 customers, are we going to create 100? So cross that out. Then this is left, which is creating the hosted chains for each. Again, it is for each customer, which doesn't make any sense. Again, it is not feasible. It is not most operationally efficient at all. Okay, so that's why you have to go with A, D, and F, because other 3 are mostly concentrating on creating for each customer. Okay, so that is that. And I think, as I mentioned, this is the last question. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you like, subscribe to this channel. Otherwise, that's fine with me. And thank you very much for your time, and all the best for your exam. See you in the next one.